Well, good morning, viewers. Today we have a 2010, I believe it's a 10, Jeep Liberty, and it's here because of a bunch of electrical anomalies. Customer reported that occasionally we'd come out to his vehicle and all the windows would be rolled down and the doors would be unlocked. Now, I've had that problem before, and it's been a defective key fob where it's transmitting a continuous unlock request, and I think that's a programmed feature. If you hold the unlock request button down for several seconds, it'll roll all the windows down and unlock the doors. I suggested that he take the battery out of the key fob for that problem, and he has removed the battery from the key fob, from the remote, and that particular anomaly hasn't occurred, but he has a bunch of other concerns. Let's have a look at some warning lights on the dash. Let's turn the heater fan down. You got an ABS light on, check engine light on, traction control light, ESP, BAS light on, and an oil change required, which has probably got nothing to do with it. So we're going to bring it in and do a network scan and see what we get. See if we can get some direction here. So this is a new vehicle record. I'm sorry, I thought it was a Liberty. It's a Grand Cherokee. 107,000 kilometers. Display fitted systems. Let's do a network code scan and see what it has to offer. Small leak detected, EVAP sensor, large leak detected, O2 sensor code, implausible right front wheel speed signal received, right front wheel speed sensor, low battery voltage. So a couple unrelated problems, 3 issues by the looks of it so far. Right front wheel speed circuit. Well, we'll have to do a visual inspection of the ABS wiring. Okay, so let's look at the report here. Low tire pressure warning and leak detected. O2 sensor circuit low voltage bank 1 sensor 2. So I don't think any of these problems are related. The EVAP code, the wheel speed sensor code, and the O2 sensor code are 3 separate issues in my opinion, and have nothing to do with the power windows rolling down on their own and the vehicle becoming unlocked by itself. As I said, I'm pretty sure that's a caused by the phobic transmitting a signal when it shouldn't be a stuck button, for instance. We're going to put the battery back in and see if we can test the transmitter. But let's raise it up on the hoist and have a look at these components on the vehicle. So I don't visually see anything wrong with the right front wheel speed sensor wiring. It looks intact. I see one of the CV boots is starting to crack. Looks like it's had ball joints replaced in this thing but never greased. And the oxygen sensor, bank 1 sensor 2, bank 1 is on the driver's side. Goes 1, 3, 5 down the driver's side. So that's bank 1 sensor 1. And that's bank 1 sensor 2. No, that's bank 1 sensor 2 right there. Yeah, that's bank 1 sensor 1 up there. And bank 1 sensor 2 right here. This is the catalyst. Visually looking at the fuel tank and filler pipe and stuff for potential rod holes through it. It's pretty rusty, this vehicle. It's for the P0456 and 455 small and large leak detected. Here's the charcoal canister here, strategically located right behind the worst wheel in the vehicle. Well, no smoking gun here anyways. So I'm graphing the front wheel speed sensors on the left front, right front. And I'm going to turn the wheels, turning the left front while the other one's turning as well because of the differential. And there was no signal from the right front. Why do we get a rear signal there? I wonder if the rear wheels turn through the transfer case. Oh yeah, the right rear turned. So it's likely going to need, I'm going to look at the wheel speed sensor wiring closer, but it's likely going to need a right wheel bearing, and I'd recommend doing that CV boot while we have that apart. Let's look at the EVAP system stuff. So looking a little closer at this right front speed sensor, and look, imagine that. Hopefully we have enough wire here to fix it. Huh. Why wouldn't that set a circuit code? You would think that would set a circuit code. That wire is corroded. We're going to fix that terminal. Maybe we'll be able to fix one of these problems without parts. So once you get the connector unplugged and pry this white plastic piece out of the bottom of the connector, you can depin that terminal. There is a plastic release right in here. You just push it away from the terminal slightly while you pull out on the terminal. Try not to break that wire off because it's ready to pull right off. Come on. I have to push it out at the same time. There we go. So if I have this terminal, I should have a connector. I believe this connector is the same as the ignition coil connectors. So I should have some. I'm going to look for one. So I found a connector for an ignition coil from a Dodge, and I stole the terminal out of it and depinned it and spliced it. I put some extra loom over the wire to protect it, soldered and heat shrunk it. And we're going to monitor wheel speed sensor signals now, see if it works. So I'm going to clear the codes, see if I can do it with it running. Codes menu, read codes. So it did clear even though it said key on, engine off. Let's look at data now. Front left, front right. And I'm going to spin the wheels. That's a beautiful thing. So I suspect that that's going to fix the ABS problem. Now he still has a CV boot that's compromised, so we can consider that. And I also noticed the transmission pan is leaking, and you can't check the transmission fluid conveniently on these. But we'll mention that to him as well. So based on the P0456 and 455 code, the most likely cause is this evaporative system integrity monitor switch, which is part of that charcoal canister, or on the charcoal canister there. That's very, very common to fail. But looking at this filler pipe, I decided to smoke test it. So you pull the vent hose off of the charcoal canister here and add smoke to it, and I'm putting smoke in there now. And I don't see any leaks, which is surprising, because this thing is rusty. So I think based on that, we'll call that ESIM switch. As I mentioned, the transmission pan is leaking. So it's hard to say how much fluid is in it, because actually, has this got a fill plug or a dipstick? I don't think so. But I don't see a fill plug on the bottom of the pan either, so must have something. We'll look into it. Make sure that there's enough transmission fluid in it for him to make it home. It's not leaking that bad, but it's definitely leaking. You can see it's dripped on the floor there. Probably leaks when it's sitting more than when it's running, because the level will be below the gasket pan when it's running. So checking the transmission oil level on this, it has a dipstick tube, but no dipstick, it just has a cap. So to check the transmission fluid level properly, according to the specs, you have to know the transmission oil temperature. And there's a chart here using a gauge that goes to the bottom of the pan. So anywhere from, what is this, millimeters? That's got to be millimeters. That's turbo diesel. Oh, brother. 3-liter turbo diesel. What's this one? 3-liter turbo diesel. Well, let's see how much they differ. Minimum level at 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It's funny, they give you the dimension in metric, but the temperature in standard measure, imperial measure. Okay. So you need a dipstick that reaches the bottom of the pan. I stole the dipstick out of a Ford F-150 transmission. It's about 3 inches longer than it needs to be. And so we're anywhere from, got to look at the transmission oil temperature. So we can get that in the transmission side of the computer. Data, I measured it, it's about 1.5 inches, 30 millimeters or 35 millimeters. Transmission temperature is a voltage, that's useless. Transmission fluid temperature is 102 Celsius. So that's around, double it and add 32. Is that really true? That seems hot. I'll figure this out. So the interesting thing is the instructions specifically state to check the transmission fluid temperature with it in gear, in reverse gear. 107 Celsius is 215 Fahrenheit, which seems awful high. And the temperature sensor voltage at 5 volts seems almost like it's out of range. Let's see what it does when I put it in reverse. If I don't knock the data cable out this time. The voltage definitely came down. So that's interesting that they would monitor the data different in reverse. So 50 Celsius, we'll convert that to degrees Fahrenheit. So roughly 50 Celsius is roughly 122 Fahrenheit. So that makes it about minimum level of 44 millimeters and a maximum level of 55 millimeters. So it is low, 44 to 55. So I'm putting this Ford dipstick in the transmission pan until it touches the bottom. Touches bottom there. You should just leave it in there, it fits perfect. And looking at the level, it's not even touching it. Let me try this again. So I was looking for a longer dipstick, and the truck is sitting here idling, and it's coming out of the overflow bottle. I see the electric cooling fans aren't running, so it's probably running too hot. This is just full of fun. Yeah, the temperature is definitely up into the overheat position. This thing, you can hear this thing blowing coolant back into the reservoir. The electric cooling fans are not operating. Now, he never mentioned anything. Mind you, it's springtime now and it's first warm day. Likely if he's driving it on the highway or short trips, it won't get too hot. But it's definitely overheating right now. So there's something wrong with the electric cooling fan. So looking at engine data, key on, engine off, and the coolant temperature was up to 125 Celsius. Now it's dropped down to 121. But the desired low-speed fan, I can't find the high-speed. Oh, there it is. Desired high-speed fan is both off and off. Let's see if they switch to on when I start the vehicle. Because it wouldn't command them on likely while it's not running. So why isn't it commanding the cooling fans on? Certainly hot enough. Drop down to 120 Celsius, but I would think that they should be running. I would think they should be running at about 105, the low speed one anyways. Let's put the AC on, if it even works. The compressor is running, but the cooling fans are not being cycled on. Oh, brother. So I'm going to try to bidirectionally control them. Is the thermostat sticking, or is the cooling fans not being commanded on? System tests. I don't think it's under system tests. I think it's under functional tests. Functional test. Radiator cooling fan relay. Let's see if it comes on. Well, the relay clicked. I heard it click, but the fan doesn't run. Fan's not running. But it's not commanding enough. Man, this thing is freaking smoking hot. So this is the low-speed cooling fan, and this is the high-speed cooling fan. And when I command this on, this relay clicks. But I thought I'd have a look at the cooling fan itself. And I think it's supposed to turn. It's seized. It's like so it needs a new fan motor, but why wasn't it commanding it on? Oh well. You could unplug that connector at the fan motor right there and put a headlight across. I'm going to do that. So I got a headlight wired across the connector at the fan motor, and when I command it on, it runs. I'm not sure how these relays are connected for high and low, but they must be in series or series parallel or something like that to give us the two fan speeds. I don't think there's it just said fan 1, radiator cooling fan relay 1 control. Doesn't have relay 2 control, but definitely needs a motor, so we're going to go ahead and talk to the customer about that. That's primary. Maybe we'll try and sell them a transmission service as well, because the transmission fluid is low. Well, I put the battery back in this remote and you can see it's transmitting and I'm not touching it. And if you repeatedly unlock the door, it will roll the windows down. It's transmitting and I'm not touching it. Now it's not transmitting. So this thing's got a defective remote control. That's what's causing the windows. I had it roll the windows down once. But I don't see it transmitting now. Well, I'm going to take the battery back out of it, otherwise you're going to have this problem again. So I figured I might as well take it apart and look at it. There's some contamination on there. I'm going to use some contact cleaner to clean that off. I don't think these little discs are supposed to come off of here. But they're dislodged and they don't stick in there. That's funny. So this one goes there. The panic button doesn't have one, unless it's in here. Oh yeah, it's still in there. Well, I don't think this is supposed to come off. As you can see, it's like the bottom of a pop can. It makes electrical contact between the inner and outer rings there. But what's to keep these in place? There's a dimple for that one in there, but these ones don't appear to be. Well, I'm going to take the battery out of it because this thing is not going to work.